This is going to be an introduction of my Suburban, because I haven't done one yet. If anybody was wondering what I did to this thing, and it's pretty much ongoing. Well, we'll start with the front. What we did is this front suspension has been changed because I didn't really like it. Well, the first 4-inch lift that I had on it was modified. I got that sitting on my front porch. But anyway, I modified it and made it to where I liked it. It was 5.5 inches of lift. Skyjacker front leaves that was under it with a 0 rate and a 3-degree shim on it. Flexed all right. Did everything it needed it to do. Had a 10 bolt under it. 3/4 ton. So ran that for a little while. And then I ended up putting this Dana 60 in. Obviously you can see I got a lot of time and effort into this. Got spring plates from Kurt, DIY 4X, for the 60. I can move the axle forward, I can move the axle backwards, however you want to do it. Had to modify the spring plate altogether, just because I'm running an 8-inch stroke ram, hydraulic ram, P2C, and that tie rod clamp. So in order to make it steer the way I need it to steer, it's got to run over the top of them bolts. So it's got to be cut down, modified. If I move the axle forward, it would probably have to do that over again. Has high steer, crossover, DIY 4X, complete high steer, crossover, kingpin spring eliminators with bronze bushings. It's a GM kingpin, 81 Dana 60 dually. 456 gears. We'll have some type of locker right now. It's open diff right now. So open diffs only get you through some mall parking lots, but lockers, they get you through all the mall parking lots. Tires need to be replaced. There's a shortage in tires. These are 39 13 wide, 39.5, I should say, 16s. I got them off a guy that had them on a rock bouncer. They seen their fair share of rock. That was vulcanized right here. You can't even see where it would tell you where the tire would be. Well, I believe these speed locks are an older version of race lines. They do not say what they are. Like, there's some markings on the back. They're actual bead locks. I had this tire off it before. But yeah, I'm gonna go to a 42, 44, or maybe even a 47-inch tire. So what I got going on now is this whole entire suspension under it now. I didn't weld that either. This is I traded my 10 bolt when I did the Dana 60 for these leaf springs, because I really didn't need the 10 bolt 3/4 ton, and I was getting rid of them dirt cheap. So I just traded because I wanted my the 5.5 leafs that I just told you about, the bushings, and there's a spot on the rear part of the leaf spring in here. And Kurt basically just explains this in one of his lives. This right here was coming apart just from flexing. I could have welded that down, beat it down on that other leaf. But why when I could just get a different set of leaf springs? So this guy that I traded my 10 bolt for said these were said to be super lift 6-inch leaves. My other ones were Skyjacker. I prefer Skyjacker or BDS or even Elcon Springs, but these are rough country. And if you know GM square bodies as much as I do, everybody has a part number. I'll show you. It's either Super Lifts will tell you in a sticker here, and it might even be stamped, but these right here on here are rough country. This is 8015, and they're for a ton truck, I believe, 6-inch. So there's a 0 rate, and them shackles right there were off the part store shackles. These ones, auto part stores, with the sleeves drilled out for bigger bolts. So they're, I think I want to say a 1/2-inch bolt. They're bigger than their factory, and the sleeves are. And I had to put them in they fit right in that bushing. You can also tell that what these leaf springs also are by the big fat end on the front with the big bushings. They're rough countries. Maybe tough country, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they're rough country from what I looked up. 5.5 inches of shackle. It gives it 8 inches of lift with my 6-inch spring and a 0 rate. The 0 rate will give you 1 inch of lift. So the little bit of drop that I get with the shackle is more than your factory would add up to about 8 inches of lift. But anyway, nothing fancy. Factory 35 spline inners on the 60. I have Yukon 35 spline stub shafts. It's still rocking the 30 spline outer stubs right now. I got to do the U-joints and get lockouts, because the 35 spline stubs that I have in the house recommend a 35 lockout or a spool, or well, not a spool, but a what do you want to call them? I'm getting ahead of myself here. A drive flange. You can use a drive flange or a 35 lockout. Probably do lockouts because what I'm going to have going on in here. And yeah, I did put that back on it when I had that diff cover off. That says 456 gears, 11-9, turbo 400 transmission. We'll move over that. This is the better IROC, by the way, out of all of them. Bought the wheels for rims for $400. Came with IROCs on it, so I just used them. If you can see this, well, anyway, it's got a little bit of leakage, but that's my intake leaking. This whole transmission, turbo 400, was stock in this truck. It worked well, and my old set of gears were 373s with these tires. And the way I built my engine, it puts out more low-end, low-speed torque. Mild build modifications that I know how to do. It's hard to explain. So we had 373 gears in the rear end. Punched it in 4-low with these big 39s on it, and grenaded every clutch in it. It made it all the way up here and backed into this same spot, and then it didn't move at all after that. Let's just put it that way. So it grenaded all that. I had a guy that lives by, Mopar guy, build this transmission. It's still the same case, but all the internals are completely done in it. It is it doesn't use the factory turbo 400 torque converter. It's using a TH350 converter because my flywheel allows it to run that way. And it's at like 3800 stall. All the clutches are, I'm trying to think of the names of them. He put all aftermarket clutches, let's just put it that way. I don't remember. They're the better clutches. Completely threw it in a 4L60 Sprag in it. And yeah, she does what it needs to do, if better than any factory turbo 400. Strongly recommend it. All that, even the 4L60 Sprag. It's probably the only thing better out of the 4L60s that a 4L60 will have. And I got a few dents on it because I pushed back trees with it. My lines are like that because I had to cut. Yeah, I had to cut them. So that's not a rear main seal leak. That's the intake on the top leaking. It's a TBI motor. I ain't gonna pop the hood. I ain't got my keys out here. But it's my motor is pretty much an 880 block Vortec block. The whole crank assembly came out of my old motor, which is a balanced rotating assembly that you could get from GM. I think they still sell it. Same numbers as your factory crank, but it is completely balanced, by far better, and that's the better crank that they'd use in the 290 crate and up for a 350. It's the same crank, same number, but it's balanced to this flywheel and that dampener. I couldn't use the Vortec dampener. The whole upper end's TBI ported 191 heads, not 193s. I got the 193s in the back of the truck if I have to ever change out these heads, but I'm not going to go that route. Ported the shit out of the heads. They're ported to the max. The gaskets, everything going out to my headers are port matched to these heads. Every time, if I had to do anything gasket wise, I have to cut down the gaskets to make them work. Edelbrock TBI high rise intake for it, 3704 I believe. And then I retained, because the computer, when you change out cams, it would basically manipulate the fuel system altogether. So I left it as the factory Vortec cam in it. This engine had, 906s? Vortec heads on it, the good ones. I gave them away. I ain't gonna keep Vortec heads. I don't like them. I've replaced so many of them. They crack. But basically, that's what I did to my motor. It's probably running on it. It's probably got about 400 miles on it. Transmission, maybe about 200. I didn't care about the exhaust because I'm probably going to put a different motor in altogether. There's a little bit more HP in it. Might go in LS. Don't know yet. Factory 208 transfer case. Only because I haven't found a reasonable price 205, and then people are trying to get an arm and a leg for them because they're getting harder to find. Probably will not run a 205 or a doubler, but I will run maybe a Dana 300 or an Atlas transfer case, or if I can even find an old Scat. If not, I will run a 205 with what is it? East Coast Gear Supply, one of them gear reductions connected to the 205. So, nothing fancy about my exhausts. It's kind of shitty, but whatever. You got to get up over that cross member, and I didn't feel like paying somebody to bend me the exhaust pipes. These are just your factory. They go under here for the bolts. You just use them to drop it. I'm going to build a whole complete different cross member when I get the transfer case done. When I get that far. Still in that process. Drive shafts need to be lengthened. Still a factory one for 208. Still using its 1350 U-joints. This drive shaft, factory drive shaft, needed lengthened, obviously. Dropping the transfer case with those, which I didn't want to, helped get me more on here, so you can see where it always was been, and it needs to go in further. 456 gears, 14 bolt, 77. Nothing fancy about the axle shafts. Spool, rugged ridge, that's what they call it, rugged ridge. It's got multiple different names. Mini spool in it, and it works. Pull truck guys that I know that run it and never have any issues. Still using its factory shafts. Suspension is factory modified, and you can see this 56-inch pack, and they were bent from the oil pipeline. The tips down there, you can see them bowing down, were bent because they're hauling 15,000 pounds with this truck. My odometer, they decommissioned it at 100K. It just sat in a parking lot, and one of the workers there were asked about it, and he ended up with it. So he got it, put about maybe 10K on it, and now I probably put about 20K on it when it was still in its factory lift. Used it for work for a little while, and then I started building this. So what I did is, I'm gonna have the finger here at the 3 here are 56. This one right here, this is the one front from my front Skyjacker 4-inch pack. These two right here are 52 rear leafs. These two right here are, and that's what these two right here are what's giving me, and the 08 are what's giving me, including the 4-inch, the actual lift on the back. So it's 8 inches of lift. And now the truck's, it used to sag because the bent leaf spring. I'm probably going to end up changing these out to some type of 4-inch pack. And then I got, these are super lift, said to be. They came with they might be. I got 12-inch front leaves in the front. Oh, well, not in the front, but in my house. From what I said, I'm getting way ahead of myself. These came off of the 12-inch lift packs that I bought. And those are 12-inch packs. They're getting a pain in the ass to buy, and you might have, sooner or later, you might have to go through other people to have them made. So I bought the 12-inch leaves ahead of time. And what I plan on doing with that leads me to do more modifications completely. But anyway, the 08 is moving the axle back 1 inch because my tire used to hit right here because I got a shackle flip back there, which is said in the shit road design page that it can't be done, that you can't do this. So this is the 4-inch flip right here. This is their super 6-inch shackle. They don't recommend using this with this flip kit. They want you to run that stupid 4-inch. This shackle works perfect. I got a 2.5 flip kit in the back of the truck that I'm not using, and if I have to use it, I'll put it back on. But it works good. I just don't care for off-road design stuff. So anyway, this is your factory. This is for a 9.5 14 bolt, the plate. I drilled this hole, well, I didn't drill it, I cut that into it And as you can see, the bolt that holds my zero rate in place is here, and the pin is right there, so it moved the axle backwards. Nothing special about the shocks. I got them off an F05 F350, the rear. There was another one that came into the pull yard that I should have grabbed the shocks from, but whatever. I plan on putting on Belsteins with reservoirs on it. 5160s. Still using the 1310 U-joint from it. This is probably the worst of the worst tire. As you can see, gotta make sure I'm aiming. I should be recording with my phone, but yeah, they're scary when you air them up. They're wore down pretty good. You know what I mean? They give you some kind of grip, but not as good as they should be. So some of the other modifications, when I probably put the other lift on my truck that I got, the 12-inch, and if I run bigger tire, this is probably the maximum size tire I could put on it, because I don't want it to rub in there. This here, I'll probably cut that lip where the radius is right off it, and where it meets the body flush in here too. That would allow me to run a 44 without rubbage, and the 42 that I'm probably going to get. These rockers, the only rust hole I have is right, the damn sunlight, right here. And it was only because it snowed. I live in Arkansas, rarely snows. And one winter we got snow. I let icicles sit on that spot. Everything is solid. It's still on its factory metal. There's one on the opposite side. I let icicles sit there, and when it melted off, that's what I got. So the rocker altogether is going to be cut flush with the door all the way off it. And they're getting probably a slider that comes out at least where my hand is, because you see where my front wheel is. And then it's going to get an exo cage on the outside of the whole truck. And what else? Oh, B52 front leaf spring hangers for my modifications. This is things I'm gonna do to the 12-inch lift, so you can't really flex 12-inch leaf springs as well as you should. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put DIY 4X's B52 leaf spring hanger in the front. This whole shackle, when I get it on there, it's gonna go forward, and the rear, well, not the rear, but on the B52, I'm gonna push this back so I can flex a 12-inch spring, and the zero rate is gonna move the axle back where its factory location is. However I gotta do it, that's how it's gonna be. I still use that factory location. These are the bigger bushings from DIY 4X. All the bolts came from the other guys that are up on Colorado mountain that are always got delays and want to lie to you, charge your card. These are their bolts. I saved the DIY 4X bolts. So this is like a 9/16 bolt. I'm blocking my mic. I'm going to repeat myself because I've had my finger over my mic. This is a DIY 4X front square body shackle mount retains a way bigger bolt on the upper end, 9/16 bolt. He even gives you lots of different options. It's got big spacers in it, space out the way I need. It works very well. I'd strongly recommend, if you're building a crawler off-road truck, to use those. But like king bin, like I said, king bin, I've already said this before, king bin spring laminator. Arms are the biggest ones you can get in thickness from DIY 4X. Bronze bushings are from Ballistic Fab. I got them for $100. Altogether, my whole steering, crossover wise, was $900. Came up to $900, and these are your main, like, what is it? Mog, or whatever the hell their name is. I don't know. These use the 1-ton ends on it. Jam nuts that Kurt made. Bigger, I don't remember, like 1.7 1.5 maybe, tubes. I had them make that tie rod clamp for me too. You can buy the clamp, but it does not come with this mounting. You have to call in and ask for that to be made. Same with the crossover steering altogether. I strongly recommend calling it in when you do it. So this going to your steering box is what you need for your lift kit. So if there's any technical stuff. Brake lines are steel braided brake lines. For 10-inch lift, I could probably go 12, just with a simple modification. I think they'll go up. But we're back here in the front, okay? That's the arm you get when you buy the complete steering kit, crossover steering kit. It is a straight, not a bend. Not the bend. If I have to run a bend end on it, I will, but this works. I'm probably gonna go to Heims down on the low steer, just cause I don't like the way this will turn with the ram. The ram right here will turn this all together, so that's why that sits in a pivot there. The lines I got made custom from a local hydraulic yard, or not a yard, but local shop. This is the DIY 4X large hydro assistance cap. The top is drilled out. I'm running a factory pump. I think they call it the West Texas mod. Just put the new power steering pump in it, and had to have this gearbox. This is a Saginaw from a 70s, so I had to get 11/16 fitting recently, and my power steering pump doesn't retain that 70s model. I used factory square body, so that was a 16 millimeter. Changed that out recently, got the fittings from a speed shop. You can see the braided line that I got with it, and the other day it was leaking. Put some bolts in here that didn't have bolts in that mount. Steering box reinforcement has been welded on. I still got to do a little bit more welding on it. My wife turned other stuff on in the house, and it was making my welds. It just screwed up my welder, because I told her you got to have a dedicated outlet for welding, and I wasn't using a dedicated outlet because I'm out here in my front yard, and it pretty much made the speed on the welder dog itself down, where it was a bitch to weld altogether. Gearbox is bolted because I stripped one out when I did the frame plates on it. None of the bolts wanted to line out even when I drilled them, and they were bolted I bolted the plate on in the existing holes. So that gave me some issues. When I impacted the one bolt in, it stripped this one out. So I just drilled them out, put better bolts in it, better grade bolts, grade 8 bolts, and nuts on it. It should actually be that way from the get-go like that. I think I pretty much explained it all. Nothing fancy with the interior. It's still rocking the old 80s interior. I really don't care because it's a trail truck. Or doing whatever truck. But that's... Don't forget the 12,000 pound Traveler winch from Tractor Supply. It works very well. Other than this plate, it has to go. My winch line binds up in it. I have the wireless remote. If you have to ever run this winch, it works very well. Comes with 12 foot, I think, cord. But I got the wireless remote kit that comes with it. This is the second one I put on it. And this, you just pull this out, lift it up, flip it up in there, shove it up in there, and basically what happened is, this is supposed to be watertight, and this is upside down, obviously you can see, and I had it facing the normal way. I think it even says Traveler on the front here. I painted it. This is JB Weld right here. This is the second one I bought, and it worked. This works like this if you have to do this or buy that type of winch. Flipped it over so because water would drain down. Sealed this because that didn't seem like it was watertight with JB Weld. Sealed the whole O-ring edge where it's supposed to be factory sealed, just so I don't get water in it again, because I don't want to be standing next to this winch just in case a cable breaks. So the wireless remote, it was a must. I can stand 75 feet away from the truck and winch it if it's in a sketchy situation. But pretty much that's it. That's my spare parts and junk and cores, and there's the 5.5 leafs that need to be completely gone through again if I decide to sell them. And like I said before, I would show you what I had. These work great. So there's only one leaf that how I had these, and you can tell right now that there's no Hendrix clamps on them. That rear leaf is in the rear of my 56s right now, and that's what's holding it all together, because there's dual clamps on it. The factory 56 ones, here they are, and you can't do that modification with, because that's got a Hendrix clamp on it. This side is just an old pound it in place, bend over and clamp it. Wasn't going to work for me. I could have drilled it and made it work, but I don't care for that. The way that is, it should be bolted from the get-go. So I ran it, that Bellstein's shocks with that old lift on it. So I have a whole bunch of those. Bushings are missing out of some of them. I got to get different shocks for this beast. Like I said, I want to put them 12-inch leafs on it and run 42-inch IROCs